crazy lighting today.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Nothing.
Laugh out loud, love a lot, and shop for what makes you happy.
Hey guys, Mandy here with Laugh Love Shop, and for Veterans Day today, I have a very special friend, Anita, here with me to tell us her story about being in the Army. So, if you want to start at the very beginning.
Oh my gosh. The beginning.
Well,
I was born in 1950.
How old were you when you decided to join?
So, I was a senior in high school, and I decided that I was going to join the military. And this was just after 9/11. So I did watch the towers burn down in my cafeteria, and the next year I was like, well, I'm going to sign up for the military because I don't know why.
You were feeling patriotic.
Everybody was feeling patriotic. I don't know. I do enjoy a challenge, so that's kind of, I guess, part of it. And I wanted them to pay for college, which I never went to college anyway. So that was kind of a lose decision right there.
Yeah.
But I did join February, I'm trying to think, of 2004. And then, so I had 2003, sorry, because I graduated in 2003, joined the military right before I graduated high school, and then I went to basic training and boot camp and all that stuff through the summer of 2003, and then I went to Iraq in 2004. We first started at Fort Dix in New Jersey, which was horrible because it was like freezing cold. We were there for like 3 months. We were supposed to be going overseas in first it was March, then it was later on, and I don't even know when we actually got in the country. I don't keep track of the dates anymore because it was 2004, and
a while ago.
It was a while ago. I was 19 years old. I had just had my birthday prior to shipping out to So there's
baby,
that.
You were a baby.
I was a baby. All of the military people are babies.
No.
So yeah, that's kind of like how it started. And I did have a cushy job, so it wasn't like I was in the front of the battle line sweating my face off in a foxhole, because it really don't do that anymore anyway.
War's not quite like that.
War's not quite like that anymore. I was in an air-conditioned building handing out money, carrying around money. And everybody loved me because I was carrying around money. So it was an easy job. The experience was fun. It was definitely an experience, and it does feel like a lifetime ago, but it was definitely something that grew my personality quite a lot and refined things in me.
It formed a lot of who you are.
Well, in the military itself, I was in the National Guard. So the National Guard is set up, you do 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year, and you are part of the National Guard for, I want to say, 6 years. And see, this is terrible because I do not remember exactly how long it's supposed to be.
Okay, so you were in the Army first, and then you were in...
Nope, it was all strictly
together.
National Guard.
Okay.
So there are the different branches of the Army. There's Army National Guard, and then there's actual a reserve. There's several different branches inside of the branch itself.
Okay.
There's also, I think there's also Air Guard as well. So the Air Force has their own Air Guard.
Okay.
So it's just it's more so civilian people who are part of, it's kind of like firefighters. You know what I mean? They're normal, Americans doing their own thing, but they also train, and they're also ready to go when they need to be sent out to help out.
That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
I am unfamiliar.
Normally, if you're in the regular Army, it's 4 years, and then you can choose to stay part of it or move on to something else, or just leave if you so choose to. I heard it too. So with the National Guard, it's 6-year term. So you can re-up after your 6 years and stay in the National Guard. You can move around to different units, things like that, or you can be done. So I chose to be done, obviously, because I had my daughter in 2008.
Right.
And so I was pregnant with her, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to go back. My friend that I went to Iraq with had just had a baby, and I could not imagine how she did it. Because even when she went home, we were allowed to go home for 2 weeks for R&R. Funny. For R&R, and
you're allowed to go home for just enough time to get into a regular routine,
and then
you gotta
go back
out
into that heat and stuff. So she had a daughter right before she left, and when she came home to hang out, her daughter didn't even know who she was, and called her mom, mom instead of grandma. You know what I mean? And didn't even know her mom, and I was like, I can't. I would never want to do that. So that thought in my mind, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to have a child and be in the military. Now, granted, if I would never have gotten married and never had children, I would probably still be in the military. I would probably would have been a lifer because I definitely loved it.
You love it?
It was so much fun.
What were your favorite parts?
Obstacles, things that made me push my boundaries, and of course weapons. I don't know why. I was really good at taking apart my M16 and putting it back together really fast. And my 9mm was really good.
You love a challenge.
I do love a challenge.
You love overcoming that challenge.
Right. So I probably should have done something harder than finance. Because that was so boring. But I did get to be in an air-conditioned building. So
that's true.
Out in
That's
Iraq,
true.
when it's 120 degrees in the desert and everybody's sweating their butts off. PG-13.
Yeah. So what were some other things that you really enjoyed?
I will have to say that being out there, it wasn't all harsh, crazy military stuff. We did a lot of fun stuff out there.
Yeah.
We had salsa night where I learned to salsa, usually with old Latinos. People that were my dad's age.
Because you were 19.
That's right. And then we had a country night where we all did line dancing.
Oh, fun.
So much fun. We had spades tournaments. I actually was a champion. Me and this old guy. What's his name? Jaeger. It was something Jaeger. His last name was Jaeger, and we were spades champions on our base. Yep. We had a little coffee shop too on our base. It was basically a shed, a little shack that we served coffee from. We did chai. We had Christmas lights strung up, and we play music, and we just hang out there and have fun. And that was definitely a good experience.
That sounds great.
It was great because it definitely was.
It's getting loud in this restaurant. I apologize.
Well, it could be louder. My house would have been louder.
Yeah, and mine too. We don't have a lot of options.
And
I said we could sit in the car, but it's raining, so the rain was just going to be loud.
It would have been so dark in your car too. PT does.
I know.
We'd have been like ghosts.
I'm curious what it was like for you as a woman in the military. I know it's probably a question you get a lot.
No, actually, I don't. And
you don't?
And it's okay because listen, being a woman in the military sucked terribly because it was 20 guys to one woman, and they were like, it was terrible in that respect. Especially, you got somebody at home, and everybody did, but
including you.
Nobody acted like they had somebody at home.
Because you and Sean were together.
Yes, we were definitely dating. Definitely dating at that time. He was sending me packages every week, and one time, this is so funny, he sent me a shoe fly pie, wet bottom.
Wet bottom shoe fly pie. Yes.
And it came.
That's the best.
Okay, so.
But I don't know if I would ship it to the desert.
No, not a good idea. Okay, it'd probably take a week to get there, first of all. Second of all, it was wet bottom. It was upside down.
Oh, no.
And you know how they ship those things in Connex boxes, and it usually gets to be about 150 degrees inside one of those things? It was a mess.
It got
baked
and
stick to the Pringles. Back to the question.
Back to the question at hand. I'll edit a lot of that out. It's fine.
Back to the question at hand. Yes, lots. I would have had lots of boyfriends, but not really. But they I don't know. It kind of sucked.
Eager participants of something you weren't interested in.
Exactly. And it's you hang out with this one person, and you're we're friends hanging out, and all of a sudden they're like, let's do something, and I'm like, ew, no, no way.
No, we were just friends.
So lots of crazy stuff in the military that I don't recommend anyone having to do.
But you loved it.
I did love the military aspect of it, but I did not really care for the men doing these neat while I was there. Yeah, that sucked.
Well, we can't end on that note.
Of course not.
So, how about, can you tell me about What's the using the maps and the cartography?
Land nav.
Yeah.
We just call it land nav.
Land nav. Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Well,
Obviously.
I did not do a lot of land nav in country, but I definitely do love land navigation. Like, hand me a map and tell me to get to a point on a map, and it's kind of exhilarating to be able to do that and not like be reliant on somebody else. Yeah, again, we didn't do that, a lot of that in when we were in country, but that's part of the training that you go through in the Army. Now, I have no idea if it's changed. Maybe they have GPS now. I don't even know. Hopefully not, because land navigation is super important in my opinion, especially if you're dropped on an island in the middle of nowhere and supposed to survive for 2 weeks.
I would not.
And get to a certain location.
I would not survive for 2 weeks. But that's why you're always encouraging the kids to look at the map of holy forests and stuff
to see where they're supposed to go and how they're supposed to get there. Yeah, it's super important because you cannot trust your devices.
No.
They will steer you wrong.
Yes,
Totally.
a lot of the time.
All the time. I mean, okay, not all the time, really. A lot. But, I was thinking about this. When I was in country, nothing like super traumatic happened. Because you hear about bombs and IEDs, which is an improvised explosive device. A lot of times they'll use like a soda can or they'll use a light bulb to do that stuff. So I was involved.
I did not know what IED meant.
Improvised explosive device.
The
military is full of acronyms, and I don't remember.
They love their acronyms.
I'm pretty sure I do not remember 9 out of 10. I remember 1 out of 10.
But improvised, so that makes sense. They're finding things to
Correct.
do.
Yes. Yeah. Which is totally crazy, but that's what they did. Yeah. So I was involved in an incident one time where we had a daisy chain, which was like a string of 3 or more of these improvised explosive devices. And so they were waiting for a convoy. So convoys, when we would travel around, we travel in a convoy, which was like, 3 to 5 vehicles, and we're all traveling together within a short distance from each other. And so they would create these daisy chains, and they would watch, and so that once you were all inside of the target area, they would blow the daisy chain. Well, there was only, out of the one that we were in, there was only one of the improvised explosive devices that went off. And so like when that happens, like it's kind of like, it's a little bit scary because, I mean, from our viewpoint, like it had gone off right in front of us. There was just like dirt everywhere. So it's like you couldn't see anywhere. And if it goes off in front of you, you're supposed to back up. If it goes off behind you, you're supposed to speed forward and then separate, scan the area, and then look if there's any immediate threat in the area, and then address and keep going. Well, we had to move back, but the person who was driving couldn't see, so she's like, I'm not gonna go back now because what if I hit the Humvee behind us? Right. And it was a big, and I was like, yeah, I guess I never thought of that. I'm like, just get the heck out of here. And so of course once we pulled back and were able to stop and look around in the area, there was literally nothing in the area. Then we had to wait for the bomb squad to come and find the rest of the daisy chain because it hadn't gone off, and it was a long, drawn out ordeal, but it was an experience. It was definitely not like some people's experiences that have been over there, but it was a small experience in Iraq that I faced when we were there. And that was the only
and nobody was hurt.
Nobody was hurt. Several of the girls had to smoke a cigarette, and they never had a cigarette in their life before.
Well,
I don't blame them. I smoked one too. And then there was one other incident that we had when we were out there. It was actually an accident. It was actually a Humvee accident. I don't even know what happened, but all I remember was I was sitting in the back, and sometimes it is so stinking hot out there, and you're in the Humvee, and I swear I must have blacked out, or like I passed out, or something. It was so hot, I probably fell asleep. Who knows? All of a sudden, we were hit from the rear. My door goes flying open, and I'm seeing the ground beside me on the ground, and we're not wearing seatbelts. We don't wear seatbelts in Humvees. At least I had my Kevlar on, just in case I got shot in the head. But anyway, so like the ground is flying beside me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. We didn't. We're fine.
Oh my word.
And so that was another weird thing. And I'm not sure, like people in front of us. So when you're in a convoy, everybody radios between each other all the time. So the people in the front had not radioed us to let us know they were stopping, and they stopped abruptly, and so we stopped abruptly, and the people behind us, they just hit us.
Yeah.
And so we were like sliding across the road. Nobody flipped because I don't think Humvees can flip. Be definitely something for Mythbusters to try. None of that. Like nobody was injured. Nothing bad happened. It was just one of those experiences where like that was kind of weird. And then I found out there was actually Humvees that are air conditioned on the inside, and I was like,
What?
And they had like the turret, which means like the turret is like the big gun on top of a Humvee. Like it's not a tank, but it was a Humvee with a turret, so it had the gun on top.
Yeah.
And it was air conditioned. I was like,
But you didn't get to ride it.
only for a little bit. We were squished inside of it too.
Oh,
so it wasn't that comfortable, but it was okay. And one of my buddies, my battle buddy, he rode in the turret. And I was like, that's kind of fun.
But I mean, who are you to complain because you worked in the air conditioning?
I did
So
work
at
in
least
the air
you got
conditioning.
that.
I wasn't always in the heat. There were definitely some places where we went, but it was like literally all heat all the time. And it was horrible because it was like, it was terrible.
I would die.
I had really short hair. It was gross. It was like really short and curly.
I probably would too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The heat and the sweat and the sand.
And the fact that you're wearing t-shirt, long sleeves, Kevlar vest.
Yeah.
I do remember this one base we went to. I forget what it was called. So we were in Kirkuk in Iraq. So that was, I'm trying to think about where it is in Iraq. It's kind of like the middle of Iraq, so Kirkuk. And then we had, there was a base, because we were finance, we would go to different forward operating bases, which are called FOBs. I know, right? Because of course they were. There were these big bunkers. The people were living. The people in the base were living inside these big bunkers, which was nice because it was like cool in there, and they looked like they were kind of reminding me of pyramids almost, but they were like small.
Yeah.
And so they were all cement, and their showers were outside. So we took showers outside in like a wooden. It was a wooden shower stall built thing, and that's where we took our showers. Yeah, porta potties were a thing. So any porta potty, it doesn't even bother me because I've been in porta potties that were like, I would rather go outside.
I just think about like being a woman, all that dirt, all that sand, all that sweat, all that showering in a shower stall that probably is not very private.
Right? No, not at all.
Like, plus, like, what if it's your time of the month? That must be, like, the worst.
Oh, it sucks.
The worst.
I wear diapers.
Ugh.
I mean,
I mean, granted, at 19, it's not as bad as it is now that we're in our 30s and I've had babies, multiple babies.
Yeah.
But still,
it did suck, definitely. And there definitely was places where, like, I remember Cobra, when we first got to Fob Cobra, like, we did stay in small little, when we first got there, we stayed in tents. And it was a big tent, and there was, like, 5 of us in a tent. And, like, you're literally sleeping, like, right next to the guy that's next to you. Your brother. Your battle buddy brother. So it wasn't private. We put up a tarp to, like, change behind.
Yeah.
But the guys that we were with were, like, so awesome. They were really
great.
cool. There was, like, 2 of them that were
weird.
not so great. Like, naughty things happened.
Oh, my.
It happens. It does,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So we had a tarp that was set up, and when we would take showers and use the bathroom, like, we literally had to put, like, something on the door that said, "Women are in here, don't come in." And we couldn't lock the doors. There was no lock on them. So no lock on anything. We were kind of pretty much like, we were there, and like we just, I mean, all the girls, we would do everything together. So wherever we'd go together, and we were supposed to do it that way. Everybody had a battle buddy. So every time you went somewhere, were with somebody, usually of the same sex. Now, however, in my unit, I was the only person who was a private, so E4 and below. So there's E1's a private, then there's E2 private, there's E3, which is a specialist, and then or E3, which is a corporal, which you only get that if you're like in school or something, and there's E4 that's a specialist. So I was a specialist. Everything else is like sergeant, staff sergeant, and so on up. So
Ranks higher than you.
correct. So E5 and higher stick together, E4 and lower stick together. And I was the only girl in the E4 and lower. So sometimes my battle buddy was a guy. But it was fine because we literally were a family. And it was brothers and sisters, and yeah. So yeah. Sometimes I had to be stuck with a guy, and it's kind of annoying. Because they were annoying. And they'd be like, well, I'm going to sleep. You're going to have to stay up. Keep guard. And I'm like, fine.
Being a woman in the military.
I know. And let me just say, this is definitely not for children's ears. There was a lot of porn watching going on. And it was hard to, like, you would walk into your sleeping area and you're like, I can't even be in here. Because it was like, they're just constantly watching it all the time. And so it's like, it really was hard. First off, being a woman. Second of all, being a Christian in the military. I can't, there was quite a few of us in our unit that were Christians, but it was very, very difficult because even as a Christian, you're like imploded with things that are like, I don't even know what to do in this situation. And plus you're 19.
Yeah.
19 years old.
A baby.
You're a baby.
You're a baby.
You're not seasoned enough to like deal with all of this. So that was my biggest thing. When I came back, I was like, oh my word.
You're 19. You're still like 7 years from your
all
frontal
those
lobe
baby,
being developed.
yeah, all those baby Christians going into the military, I feel so bad for you, and I pray for protection because there's so much evil going on, and it's not like they realize it either. You know what I mean? Like it's normal. It's like it's life. It's kind of like college.
Yeah.
But increased.
But yeah.
Exponentially increased because there really is nobody watching your back.
Yeah.
Especially if your battle buddy is promiscuous. Anyway, so there's that. And I honestly probably have not said anything like that to anybody before. Now it's gonna go on YouTube.
Yeah. It's okay. They're fine. They're safe.
Yes, I know.
It's a good crowd.
That's true. So true. And even if it wasn't, like, it's kind of like information that people probably push under and don't like realize that it's going on.
Yeah.
So, because the military is like very hush-hush with everything. It's like even when you begin, it's like don't ask, don't tell. So if like you're gay or lesbian, like you can't say anything. I definitely know that there were some in my perimeter within my friend group that were, but there again, nowadays in the military, people are not going to single you out and beat you up because of it. Back in the beginning of the military, when they first brought up that policy, it was because people would actually try and kill you if you were in that persuasion.
I just can't.
I know.
Can't.
It's so frustrating.
I can't.
Either way, so, and, there's supposed to be no mixing of ranks either, and, like, that happened like crazy. But it was like college, as I said.
It happened more often than we regular citizens would like to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
There definitely was some cool things, though. Let me just turn my nose first. So also when we were in country in Iraq, so Bob Caldwell was a bigger base where we had a lot more people on it. There was contractors that would come. So they're American civilians who are working with the military, usually building things or whatever. They're not military people. They're civilians. So as a military person, of course, you weren't able to bring over any contraband such as alcohol. Or anything like that. So all the contractors, they'd have plenty of that in their cupboards, and they'd be like, "Come on over," and I'm like, I'm like 19 years old, guys. But so there were definitely contractors that would have things that we wouldn't have, like steak. And I felt like I was eating camel burgers over there. And they would like, "Well, we're having steak and beer," and I'm like, "Oh, I am so there." And because I was a woman, they just let me come.
Of course, because you were one of how many that were over there?
Yeah, like 5. In our unit, it was like 5 females, like 15 males. So all those women would typically hang out together. So we would, go everywhere together.
Did you for the most part, feel safe though within your unit?
Absolutely. I mean, all of the people in our unit were very protective, and it was very nice, tight-knit group people. And I was, we were, before we went over there, obviously, we drilled in Lebanon, which is local area. So we had a lot of really good people over there with us in our immediate unit. It does stink because I feel like I don't keep in touch with like any of them anymore. Not to say that if I wouldn't see one, I'd be like, "Oh my goodness gracious, brother, what's up?" But it's not regular that I would ever see them. And I know that there was, I had a couple that have passed on too, and actually not in a great way either. When I was in Iraq, my battle buddy, she came home for her R&R and was hit. Her and her husband were killed in a car accident. So there, I was like, wow, we're in country, fighting for our country, and she goes home and dies on vacation or leave. So that kind of
wakes you up and makes you realize.
And I know just recently, one of the other girls that was in my unit, I don't really know what the deal was because I had kind of fallen out with her, but I had found out that boyfriend or something, or ex-boyfriend or something, like literally came after her and shot her and himself. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, like this is my family that feels like my family.
Yeah.
So that it just, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, like we go overseas to fight for our country, but yet we die here in America.
I had a friend who was in the Marines, and he had struggled with depression his whole life.
Yes,
Really.
yeah, that's a big thing too.
But you know, been in the Marines and been like it didn't help for sure.
No.
And he committed suicide a couple years ago. But this isn't even like that. It isn't even like, oh, being in the military influenced something that happened that led to it. But no, it was just tragedy.
It was. Absolutely. It happens, and there is definitely a feel there too for like people who do come back. You know, there's definitely that readjusting to life is so hard, because in the military you're told when to do this and when to do that and when to do this and when to do that. Your whole day is planned out, and when you get home and you don't have that, you got to be here at this time, you got to do this at this time. You don't have anybody telling you what to do. It's kind of like a culture shock almost for some people, and they just can't really handle it so well. So it's definitely a very real thing, and I'm definitely blessed to have not had that issue. I think I was young enough to not care. I'm like, yeah, dude. I will live
you have no problems making decisions.
Correct.
Well, I think we're gonna end it on that note, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave it a comment for me, for Anita, in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You know we do all kinds of videos on this channel, so make sure that you do that. And if anything, I hope that this video reminds you to pray for your people who are in the military, and call them, text them, check up on them, because it's hard, and I'm sure they have stories that they would be very willing to share. So thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.
Yeah.